Information soaked inside the mind. Wisdom, experience, we're focused on your grind. Understanding comprehension through the quotes and all lines. And respect that should be given to your folks at all times. Expect to be amazed with what I'm posting online. From the funky instrumentals to my logos and designs. Message on the garment, plus it comes with hard rhymes. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and respect at all times.
Dropping heat rocks on y'all bitch ass. You know what I'm saying?
From the start in America, dance. One of the first dances is the ring shout. The ring shout is a spiritual experience. Dancers bless their lives as they move, including their labor, digging potatoes, picking cotton, or rocking the baby. Ralph Ellison, the 20th century writer, called these dances America's first choreography.
It's funny how these Pan-Africans always say that we don't know our language, but you have a black woman here speaking fully Chata right here. But notice what she says.
Okay. Pietro ya technic mananatas. Na aanvoer hello. Be amos aan. Be kan ook follow dan pas je nog video make it. Ja, dus ja. Op je leven van hoe dat we leven maar tabel jongen. Heb je mama tabel maar heb je mama not ja te krijgen dus ancestry door tabel ja. Je doet maar ons op een taal in mijn derde maar. Je kan nog tamers vooral de school sapas. Sapa uli mana so we. Kaning makina see stuff hold up at that instead of man. When you not to kill out to get Sapa uli mana so we it. Marina lies of it. What the way he wants to kill on me. No, they really don't sell him ma. We are here long ma. In garden dim side of one. To be yoga mona and yoga labor no fit mama treason me take it. Igma not a mile can fina yet okay. Every night and then we go store. You ma no die what most of the time I know that he was I want to know dear I know you a bit no believe yet. So not a mile can fina yet okay. No more than maybe once or twice to call a mother we go to town.
That's George Washington Carver, but this isn't about him. This is going to be a video to show you how your Indian cultural things that you do are still around today, ours. Okay, because I'm tired of these Africans and everybody else is saying your culture doesn't even exist, and what you all tell me what all of you do still today. What's continued? Well, I've read the books compared to everybody else, and I'm about to show you several book excerpts that show you what exactly your cultural things were. Okay, so this particular page is about the history of the Chickasaw, Natchez, and Choctaw. It says that the doctors made use of herbs and roots in various forms applied and given in different modes for emetics. And I'm guessing because they say the YT people use emetics or medications. We were using herbs and roots, right? They gave it for cathartic sweats, wounds, and sores. They also, by means of burning and punk or whatever. It says here that they also use some enchantment and other practices of magic and things of that nature, but herbs and roots and other practices. That could be like what you all do today with your crystals and chakras and stuff like that, right? Frequency healing. All of those things would seem like magic to these folks and enchantment. Over here in a book about the Spanish settlements, it talks about how they use herbs and drugs to cure all kind of sicknesses and diseases. Talking about the Indians and the Spanish settlements down there in the Florida, or basically the entire South. I have a few books that I'm gonna do some chat GPT translating for you, but here you see herbs medicinales, que un la fa whatever, okay? Talking about the savages, we're gonna translate. There are many medicinal herbs that do not exist in Europe, whose effects is infallible according to the experience of the natives, who use them daily to heal all kinds of wounds, to treat this and that, and tertiary and whatever, and fevers and pulls and whatever, and kidney pain and all these other things. This is another book that I translated, so a completely different book. They know many herbs to cure diseases and wounds. With one called buhai, whatever, they purge the bile and whatever is harmful in the stomach of the body. It is very well common and very healthy and blah, blah, blah. They keep going. So that's why I started off with Carver, because Carver was a genius in plants and herbs, okay? More than just a peanut. You had your Sabis. We've had our Dr. Liala Africas. We also got our Yakis, okay? Now, you can't find a bunch of people who are kind of famously known or really just out there prominently in the native Siberian community, right? That's out there as popular utilizing roots and herbs like that. That's a credit for our people, our culture. Let's move on to another trait in your culture. It says that the Indians, this is the Creek Indian history, it says that none of them have any system of writing, even though they did, but they preserve traditions of great antiquity in rhymes and chants. Dancing and physical exercises are held in honor and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so rhymes and chants. Well, there's no question. We know who preserves things in rhymes and chants. We know who are the best in rhyming and chanting. And it definitely isn't this guy. It also definitely, for sure, definitely, isn't your $5 Siberians. You don't even see them around in rap. This one here is another one talking about the history of the Indians. These are, I think, in the Choctaw area or whatever, but you got dancing constituted another amusement of various Indian tribes, but unlike those of civilized people, their dances were all characteristic. Thus, their war dances represented the actions of war. They brandished their weapons. They're dancing to music, brandishing their weapons. Have you ever seen that before? Anybody ever seen that before in music videos? All the time. Right above that, the Indians gambled to the greatest excess. They staked furniture, tools, clothes, and even their liberty on the hazards of the game with the madness and folly that characterized blah, blah, blah. How long have y'all been shooting dice? Because I know we've all done it. In fact, when I was in middle school, I knew how to do backdoor Little Joe with the dice. Who taught me how to do that? Coming in here, we got another book, completely different book, but I had to translate it. It was in either Latin or Paleo Spanish. The Warrior Indians, those of bravery and standing comparable to the captains, distinguished themselves from others by painting or tattooing their bodies. They introduced the colors into the skin, a process called piquamiento or whatever, since it is done by pricking the flesh. According to the number of their feet, they would do either their arms or other things and other things. So they were tattooing their bodies. Who has been doing that forever? Now, yes, you can pretty much give credit to a lot. Everybody does it now to a degree, but you can see this going back far, far, far long ago. And our people typically do it all the time. Same photograph, but notice the wannabes will try to do it a little bit, but it just don't look it just don't look right. But also, these are their Chippewa Indians, and they were depicted with tattoos on their faces and stuff as well, as you can see there. This is the actual photograph of one of them. But you know another characteristic? This comes from the history of Hernando de Soto. I done hit you with at least about 8 or 9 books. But it says, they drink only water. They eat their meat well cooked. And if you're trying to understand what they mean by that, they said their fruit neatly ripe, their fish well roasted, and ridicule the Spaniards who used them otherwise. So the Spaniards would not eat their meats well done, right? You know, they like to eat that raw stuff. I just seen a video of somebody on Twitter eating something like this. Yeah, you see that right? Raw beef, and then they throw some onions and some seasonings on top, which ain't nothing but some pepper. Yeah, we would ridicule them for doing otherwise. Now, that was German, but the Spaniards likely did the same. But again, it's our culture to say, cook that motherfucker all the way through. This book, which is very old, goes into talking about the use of the word mama and how the Indians are the only one that continue using the word mama well after the years of people modifying it from their years of being taught to modify it to something like mom or mother. Now, we all know that we're the ones that call our moms Big Mama. You know what I'm saying? Grandma, some of us, not all of us. I didn't call mine Big Mama, but we know that that's a big thing in the community, but we all call our moms Mama. I have my mom saved. I just call her Mom. I'll probably say Mom like if I'm talking about her in person, but typically when I'm talking to her directly, it's Mama. And in my phone, it's saved as Mama. And don't forget, we have Big Mama's house. We know, you seen that from a native Siberian? It also talks about, hey, at burials and just other times too, we would blow smoke of herbs into the noses of the mourners, and they say that this gives them health, and then they talk about shaving their heads or something for grieving something. We don't do that no more, but definitely, smoking them herbs. The men and women sing and dance. The men shoot arrows into the air, and the women with the chanting songs answer them in sacrifices or whatever. You know how people do during any time of the year, the celebrations and the holidays. You gotta aim your gun at the sky. Same thing here. So yeah, our culture has consistently been the same since we've been Indians, all the way up until present time. And in fact, they probably slowed us down because we was on that old world shit pretty tough. But either way, without getting too deep on that, I showed you at least a good 8, 9, 10, or however many traits that were Indian traits from many different voyagers, and all of those books were from like 1500s, 1600s, maybe 1700s. Like, none of these books are 1900s and shit like that. So you can bank on it that these people are telling more truth than that McGraw-Hill bullshit y'all been listening or reading or listening to.
Their names are Indian. For instance, Shaniqua, right? There's only one group in the world that have names like that. Shaniqua, Shanique, Taekwon, Jaquan, names like that. I did a whole video on just the type of Indian names. If you want to know, let us know in the comments.
Consciously, our culture. So these are things that I love as an indigenous person that we've been doing subconsciously, our culture, customs, and traditions that either we've been doing subconsciously or it's been deemed as ghetto or bad. Let's get right to it. So me, I love our indigenous names, right? The Kwan is the masculine, the Kwa is the feminine, right? So Shaniqua, the Kwan, Taekwon, right? The Tamika, the Ta is indigenous. The Lamika, the La is indigenous. And the more you search, you're gonna realize, hold on, a lot of these so-called ghetto names are indigenous names. And this is why I love the fact that you don't see it nowhere else. You see it here on this land, the land of milk and honey. I love the fact that our soul food is indigenous, right? If you look at a book called Contributions of American Indian, you'll see a lot of our soul food there, right? You'll see the cornbread that we created that's indigenous to this land. And it's not the so-called natives, right, which is the Western Plains from North Dakota, South Dakota, Arizona. Not what they do on that side. It's what we do. They make fry bread. We make cornbread, which is indigenous to this land. We barbecue, right? This is what we do, right? You don't see a Western Plains native have barbecue businesses, barbecuing and doing other stuff that we do. But we do that, right? And we're literally the masters of the barbecuing. Let's be clear, right? The tenderizing, the way we barbecue it, even how we barbecue it, right? And we grill it is indigenous, right? So I love the fact that we still doing that customs and don't realize these are indigenous customs. I love the fact that we are still dominant in basketball, which is indigenous, right? We are still dominant because this is ancestral. This is innate, right? This is the things that we did and always have done, and we are dominant in basketball, right? I love the fact that even in some of our nicknames, like my brother used to be called Moot Dog, right? Then we have Snoop Dogg, right? So some of our nicknames are either animals or of mother, which we call Earth, right? I love the fact that we still kind of do this. They call it the Diddy Bop or the Pimp Walk or the Gangster Walk, right? But it's literally called the Warrior Walk, right? From Cherokee or Enuaya, right? This is called the Warrior Walk that indigenous people do. It shows the dominance, it shows the confidence, and we walk that way. There's no other people that walk the way we walk around the world. We are the one that walk like that. Anybody can know and tell a so-called Black American just by the way they walk. I love the fact that our root work is indigenous to this land because the main denominator or the common denominator of root work is the indigenous plants, which is indigenous to Americas, right? I know a lot of people like to state Africa on our root work traditions, but it can't be from Africa if the main common denominator is the indigenous plants that come from Americas. It doesn't make sense, right? And so I love the fact that we have the root work and the things that we do that's indigenous to this land. I love the fact that we are the top producers of mother. We are the builders of mother. There's nobody on this earth that built mother the way we built mother here in the United States of America with 50,000 inventions, in which I believe is a continuation of civilization that was already here. And this is why we continue on with that civilization. This is why that small time period, there was an exponential amount of inventions at that fast pace and that fast growth, because it wasn't a new idea. This was something that people were already doing. So all it was with the 50,000 plus, remember it's 50,000 plus inventions. This was just a continuation of a civilization that was already there. We were the producers of mother and other people were the occupiers of mother. They just stayed in that one area, didn't really produce anything. We were the producers of mother, and we built mother from the ground up. We built this country from the ground up, and we built this land from the ground up. And this is why we are the trendsetters of the earth. This is why we are the ones, when it come down to when people think of the United States of America, they think of us, the people of this land, the so-called Black Americans. And hopefully this is valuable. I love y'all. Peace a lot.
The concept of us saying yo to one another is really basically coming from the Chalagi or Cherokee of saying oh shio, the way in which we dance, the way in which we walk. The walk in the 70s that many people thought was an Afrocentric expression, in actuality was a long-haired Cherokee warrior walk. The hip-like walk that is expressed as being Afrocentric was not Afrocentric at all. A warrior walked, and he walked with a limp, and his shoulder would dip as he walked. Now, that type of walk is not the only where in which you have seen that cultural expression is in America and by those who call themselves African American.
40 million black people in America are the role models for 1.8 billion black people in the world. When we say something's cool it's cool in Tibet. When we say something's a dud, it's a dud in North Korea. We have mastered culture, community, and cool and creativity, yes or no? So now all we have to do is switch, become bilingual, and master capitalism, commerce, and a new community. Don't go from rocking the mic to owning it. So I want you just to shift your brain. In other words, you are the capital. You already have what you need. When you walk in a room, you are unique. Everybody wants to be you, except they don't want to be black.
The black man in America is the most copied man on this planet, bar none. Everybody want to be a nigga, but nobody want to be a nigga. How about that question?